about it, okay? But we are trying to explain. This session is, we are going just only to review 3 or 4 more slides, and we are going just only show you how to use or how to handle apps, let's say, to create your server, MySQL, Postgres, and also for SQL database, because we have 2 sections. One is about the open source databases, another one is SQL database. I would like to ask one question to you. It's if you could raise your hands, how many of you are using right now MySQL, Postgres, or MariaDB in your production environment? So I'm not able to see. I don't know how many, but
don't see any.
Okay, no problem. So it seems that we have I don't know, because previously we have also some problems about the raised hands. Okay, anyway, so let me go, you know, right now about us, because we deliver the session. My name is Jose Manuel Jurado. I'm support escalation engineer, and with me, my colleague Vitor. Both we are escalation engineers, Science Master in these technologies, and also a speaker in different events. So what is the agenda for today? The first thing is we need to explain what is the Azure platform is. Okay, it's very important that every time that you create a server and database, you need to know what is Azure services, platform as a services. The second point, we are going to cover several points about MySQL, several features that we have in MySQL, and also we are going to create several servers and the option that we have, okay, in order to compare with other providers, etc. And also we are going to cover also several things about Azure SQL database. So, but what is the platform as a service? What the platform as a service is? Okay. So right now we are working in 2 environments. One is on premises, another one is Azure or other cloud providers. In on-premise, you have different environments. You have Linux or you have Windows. But what happens when you are working on premises? At the end, it's based on the virtual. You could use virtualized machines or you could use physical machines, but you need to, let's say, manage all these things: application, data, or data, runtime, middleware, etc. What happened when we are using Azure and we use one thing that is called infrastructure as a services? That means that you are going to create your server. In this way, one of the advantages that you have is more or less you are going to have, let's say, the 100% of the compatibility, because it's just only move your server, let's say, to one place to another place. In this case, you could still, for example, apply your service packs, you install your applications for your database, for SQL database, I mean. But other things right now will manage by the provider. In this case, Microsoft. It's the virtualization, the server, storage, networking. We are going to manage by you. Okay, so you could forget it about these things, and you are going to manage your applications, your data, etc. Also, you could use other technology, let's say Linux, Windows, Docker, Kubernetes, many things. In terms of platform as a services, let's say that is we offer the service as a platform. What is the main differences that you have? As you could see, we discussed today about SQL database, managed instance, SQL data house, Synapse, etc. But just only mention that right now, the service packs, the installation of the operating system, the virtualization, the server, the storage, and networking will be managed by Microsoft in this point. So that means that you don't need to install any service pack. We are going to do by you. Okay. So just only you need to maintain your data and your application. So this applies not just only for SQL database. This applies also for SQL for MySQL, MariaDB, and also for Postgres database. So at the end, let's say that is Azure, it's like it's a piece as a services. So at the end, platform as a services, you could see just only you need to put the table and the soda. The rest of the thing is managed by other ones. Okay, we have other option that is called software as a services, but it's other thing. So what is the reason that we decide to use to have platform as a services, MySQL and Postgres? The idea is very simple. It's we want to provide more data platform choices. Okay. Also, we saw that several companies are increasing the utilization of the open source. Okay. Also, MySQL, we decided to start with SQL, for example, is one of the largest market share that we have in open source. Also, we saw that Postgres, Drupal, Joomla represent the, let's say, the 30% of the internet application. Also, it's clear that Postgres is the faster growing, much probably for the compatibility that they have with Oracle, that Postgres is less cheaper that we have, for example, with installation on Oracle. And also, Postgres is the top of the open source choice for companies, as I mentioned before, about migrate off for Oracle. So what is the main features when you decide to go to use MySQL and Postgres in platform as a services? It's a fully managed services. What does mean? That means that the provisioning, let's say, to create a server will be in minutes. We are going to show you in the next slide, in the next demo. Every time that you create your server, you are going to have 3 replicas in different domains. Okay. We are doing the backup for you. Okay, depending on the retention period, and also will be geo-replicated. So that means that the backups that we are doing in one data center will be also available in another data center. Something happened with environment. There is not needed to maintain this infrastructure, okay, because we are maintaining by you. Also, we are going to patch something in the minutes updates, but you don't need to update for the minutes update. You don't need to run this process, or you run or schedule this process. We are going to do by you sending an email saying, okay, in the next 3 days we are going to update your server, just always with the minor updates, not with the major update that say change the version of the database. So in terms of performance, it's predictable, because when you create your MySQL and Postgres server, you're going to choose what is the number of vCores, okay? And also let's say it's quickly in order to scale up, scale down your server. So we are going to show you how is the way to increase the number of vCores or increase the number of the size of your storage, etc. We have more, and the similar way that you have in SQL database, you are going to have in MySQL, let's say in alerts in base of the CPU, when you reach a maximum number of CPU, etc. You could have alerts about it. You have one thing that is called compute unit, but right now it's vCores. We manage the storage in terms of IOPS, okay? Based on the storage size, you are going to have more or less IOPS, okay? This is the main features that we have with MySQL and Postgres. But I'm going to stop here about the presentation, and we are going to show you one example about how to create one MySQL or Postgres. So I'm going to go to the portal. Okay, and right now I have, beside the SQL database, I have MySQL, Azure Database for MySQL, or I have also a database for Postgres. When I choose SQL database, for example, I would like to add a new one. Okay, you have several details in order to choose, in order to create my server. For example, I'm going to add a new server here. I'm going to choose, for example, one resource group. It's just only one unit to organize the details. You could choose from a backup that you have in another server. Okay, you could choose the location of your server. For example, here it's let's say, for example, in North Europe. And also you could choose the version. What is the version that you need for MySQL? This is the available versions that we have right now. You could choose also the version 8. Okay, but let's try to use the oldest one. One thing that you could define is what do you need in your server. So if I click in configure server, you have two different, let's say, database tiers, or three different database tiers based on units. Okay, for example, if I need to use general purpose, as you could see here, you have a number of options. For example, you could choose, I would like, for example, to use 64 vCores or 2 vCores. The storage, you could go right now, for example, from 1 until 16 terabytes of data. One thing that is very important, it's about this option about storage auto growth. That means that if you click yes, if we detect that your database is reaching the maximum capacity, you're reaching, for example, when you have just only 5% of the space on your server, we are going to increase the size for you, okay, in your storage. Okay, it's very important because if not, your database will be in red only about it. Also, you could choose the backup retention period. The minimum size is 7 days, and you could have the dates about 35 days. So, at the end, you could have also the cost. For example, for 2 vCores with 1 gigabytes of data, this is the cost that I have, etc. So I'm going to click right now, OK. Also, I'm going to specify, for example, the username. I'm going to use the password. Okay, so right now, just only with this information, right now, I'm going to additional settings if I need to add some tags, etc. But I'm going to click here to review and create. This is the total price that I'm going to receive, and I'm going to click to create. Meanwhile, this MySQL server is creating. I would like to show you how to create Postgres servers. Okay, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to the portal. In this case, I'm going to choose Postgres server. And here we have a difference. We have the opportunity to create a single server. You are going to create just only one single server, or you are going to have, or you are going to create an hyperscale. You have two choices. If you choose, let me to duplicate this screen. Okay, if I choose create a single server, I'm going to have more or less the same looks like that I have in MySQL. Just only specify my server, specify the version right now. As you could see, we have 11. Most probably, very soon we are going to have the last version is 12. Also, you could specify the configuration server. One thing is, for example, in this case, we could use memory optimized. That the difference between the database tier is about how it's what is the purpose of your database. Memory optimized is when you need more to use more memory. for example, because depending on your workload. For example, suppose that I will like. Yes.
Jam,
Yes.
just an alert. If you create a server in a basic, you are not able to scale up to general purpose or memory optimized. Okay.
Yes,
That's
you're
why
right in
it's,
this point. Yes.
and
Yes.
also the vice versa. You cannot go from general purpose to basic.
Yes. Yes, you're right in this point. Yes, it's very. Thank you. Yes. Also, it's about, for example, about Postgres, about hyperscale. As we mentioned, hyperscale is a distributed system. Let's say that could be more similar that we have with SQL Data Warehouse. In this case, the option that you are going to have, as you could see, you are not going to create a server. Let's say you are going to create an server groups. Okay. As you could see, when I type here, the main idea here is as it's a distributed system, you could choose how many nodes, how many workers that your system needs. This is very simple. Suppose that you run a query. This query, this database tier is a hyperscale environment. Every time that you connect to the main, let's say, the server of your Progress server, this query will be distributed in the number of workers that you have. Okay, so for example, in this case, it's 20 servers, 20 nodes. So at the end, this query will be run in a maximum in 20 nodes. What that mean? That mean that it's very important how the data is distributed. Okay, I'm not going to go into more details about it, but it's very important about the DBA that how the data is distributed. So sometimes you could, for example, all the data from 1 year or 2 years, you could specify one specific work nodes. Other days, you could specify other years in another work nodes, or you could split the data without any data, any parameter in among the nodes, etc. Also, you could specify, for example, how many vCores that you need for every node. So what that means? That means that right now I'm going to have 20 nodes. That every node you are going to have 16 vCores, or for example, I don't know, 10 for example, 8 vCores. And the end, you are going, the power that you are going to have is you are going to have around 160 vCores in order to run your query. So this is one thing that is called hyperscale, because it's the capacity in terms of number of vCores, in terms of capacity. Also, as you could see, you could specify the maximum terabytes of data per node. So right now, it seems that I'm going to have 40 terabytes of data and 160 vCores. So it's also, if you want, when you have this server, you could minimize, you could change the node if there is you need less worker or not. So this is the powerful that we have right now in order to create this type of servers. Okay, so I think that my SQL server is completed. Let me go to the resource. This is my SQL server in the similar way that you could create for MariaDB or for anything else. So the looks like, as you could see, it's very similar that you have with SQL database. Okay, you have an overview that you could see the resource utilization, etc., the version. You could force the SQL layer encryption data. You could go here in the similar way that we did in the previous sessions about add metric, about, for example, CPU percentage, IO percentage, memory percentage. So you have the same, more or less the same metrics that you have in the similar environment about SQL database. Sorry. In terms of connection security, you could specify the firewall in the similar way that we are doing in SQL database. You could specify the TLS version, connectivity in between VNets, firewall rules, etc. One thing that is very important is about the server parameters. This is the typical question that we have right now. As you could see, you have a lot of server parameter. We are increasing this parameter every time in order to review these things, in order to have more server parameters for you. Okay, some parameter that is not possible, depending. I don't know exactly right now, depending on the question that we have from our customers. Okay, you can imagine what is the database that we are maintaining. For example, for MySQL is InnoDB. Okay, this is the basic database tier that we are using right now in order to maintain the high availability, the backups, etc. Other option that we have in MySQL is the replication. So you could create replications in another data center. Okay, so you could have multiple replicas of your data around the globe. Other things that we provide is to use Azure Active Directory admin. You know that in SQL database, you have the option to connect using SQL login, and also you could use Azure Active Directory. In MySQL, you could also do the same, connect to using Active Directory. So pricing tier is the same. As I mentioned, you could scale up, scale down the different things. Okay, so the most important thing is it's about all this data. Let me show you. I think that I would like to choose one that is a different. 1 second. Yes. This morning we review about performance recommendation, query performance insight, query data store. You know that during this day we review multiple queries, what happened with my queries, etc. Well, in MySQL, in Postgres, we have the same. You could enable this one, and also you could have the query performance insight. I don't have any information right now, but also you could have an index recommendation. So we analyze your workload and provide you, please create these indexes for this MySQL. And also we provide you the queries that is taking too much time, okay? And also in the similar way that we did this morning, you could use alerts. Also, you could use diagnostic settings. So diagnostic settings means that you have the same power that in order to monitor your MySQL instance, in order to capture all the information. And for sure, the last one, it's about the server logs. So server logs, as the name of that provide us, is the server logs that you have for your MySQL, for your Postgres, the typical and default logs that we have. You could download the files, you could review what happened with your instance, etc. So this is the way to create your MySQL server, or try to do this thing for MySQL. Also for Postgres, the Postgres is the similar way. I don't know if you have any questions about how to create these MySQL and Postgres servers. Okay, it seems that we are very tired. Okay, so okay, I'm going to continue in this the session, but the most important thing is this. Okay, so I'm going to I'm going to continue in the with the presentation about the demo. So also, as we review, what is the main features for SQL and MySQL in terms of security? We encrypt the data for the application data and the backups. Okay. Also, we have the audit. We protect your server. If someone tries to connect multiple times, we are going to, in the similar way that we have with SQL, we are going to prevent the connection from this IP. We have the server rules. Our SL level agreement right now is 99%. We are using right now the community version. You could use your native tools, your drivers and your libraries. So there is not needed to change your code. You need to change anything. It's just only change the connection string, I mean. Okay. The historical monitoring is for 13 days. The access of the server is for the last 7 days, and how to manage, it's possible to create my server. Okay, you have multiple things. You have the Azure portal. You have one thing that is called more or less is PowerShell. It's Azure CLI. And finally, you could also, your developer could run REST API. So it's another way in order to create your service. Okay, so this is that the main, let's say the main topics, the main options that we have about MySQL and Postgres, and just only to highlight about the extension. We don't have 100% right now the extension supported in Postgres, okay, but we are increasing a lot this extension. I don't know right now what is the roadmap, okay, in terms of extension, but we are going to have multiple extensions available in the next years, month, etc. So what is the how to connect to my MySQL and Postgres? Right now, the main difference, as we mentioned, you could use all the tools that you are using: Python, Ruby, PHP, WordPress, PHP admin, Danjo. You could use all of these. The only difference in terms of connectivity that we are going to have is you are not connecting directly to your server. Okay, in the similar way that we are doing in SQL Azure, all the connection needs to go through one proxy server. Okay, the proxy server contains the firewall rules. That the firewall rules contains several protection about the name of the service, protect the data, protects about the brutal force, etc. If everything is going well, this connection will be redirect to the real server that your Postgres and MySQL instance is running. Okay, so at the end, the main difference in terms of connectivity is we are using right now a proxy server. So this proxy server control, let's say, the connection. It's very important about we have a few milliseconds of latency when you establish the connection. Okay, because we need to go through first to the proxy and after go to the tenant ring. For the reason, we suggest to our customer to use a connection pooling. Okay, it's very important in order to reduce this latency. We have many different connection pooler. For Postgres, we have much probably BT Bouncer, proxy server for MySQL. So we have many things about it. Okay, so again, you could see that I have installed padmin and MySQL Workbench. How to connect to my servers? It's very simple. Just only you need to open your Workbench. Okay, create a new connection. So you need to specify, for example, the connection name. Let me show you an example. 1 second here. Yeah. Okay. So right now, this is your server. The name of your server is the name of your server that you specified in the creation of your server. And the domain, the FQDN, will be mysql.database.azure.com. For Postgres will be the same, but we are going to change this name. Okay, and the most important thing in terms of connectivity is this. When you specified your username, you need to specify the username, and also you need to specify, for example, sorry, not for example, you need to specify, you must specify the server name, okay? This is based because when we establish the connection, we are going to connect through the proxy, okay? And for the reason, you need to specify here the name of your server, okay? Once you specified these things, that's all you need to specify your password, or you could specify your Azure Active Directory password, and as you can see, it's the same, okay? It's the same in terms of connectivity, in terms of also you could find, for example, the server status. Okay, you could use, for example, a schema, the performance schema, performance report, or you could use the dashboard. So at the end, is more or less is the same that you have right now with your MySQL and Progress environment. In terms of applications, it's the same. So you don't need to change that's only the connection. So let me go back. I don't know if you have any questions. Okay. No. Okay, I'm going to back to the presentation. So what is the, at the end, as I mentioned, is this how we connect from the Workbench. What is the main pillars? Okay, the main pillars for the Azure Database Service. As you could see, all the service, SQL Data Warehouse, SQL Database, MariaDB, MySQL, Postgres, Hyperscale, use the same technology, the same platform. We use the same advisor, the same tuning. We are flexible in terms of on-demand and resource governor. And also we are using the Azure Compute, Azure Storage, and it's available in multiple regions. So before give the turn to my colleague Vitor to explain how to create our SQL databases and review other details about SQL, I would like to ask you if you have any questions about MySQL process, the configuration, the creation, etc. It seems that's not. Vitor, could you please take the ownership of the presentation, please?
Okay. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Now, as Jose said, I'm showing here how to create an Azure SQL database and also a managed instance. Okay, so what I have here is the Azure portal. I have selected here the resources that I usually work on my day-to-day, so I can have an easy access to them. So what I want to do is create an Azure SQL database. So I click here and I can see all my databases. And to create a new one, I just click here or go to a specific server and create a database here. It doesn't matter, it will create the database in any way. So I want to create a database on this specific server. So I create here a database, click here, create database, and as I selected already the server, it will fill automatically this information regarding the subscription, regarding the resource group, because it's associated with the server. If I go, for example, here on and create a database without specifying the server, it will ask me if what is the subscription that I want to use, what is the resource group that I want to use. Okay, the name of the database, for example, test datafest. Okay, and then I will want to select an existing server, or I can create a new server. Okay, here I have all the servers that I have already created, but I want to create a new one to show you how to do it. So you just have to create the name of the server. It must be unique, cannot be used anywhere on Azure. So I want to put datafest, for example. Okay, it's already in use, so someone has already created on this process, on this event. Okay, datafest 2 is available. It's okay. I want to select here the admin username. This is a SQL user. Okay. Prombeiro, for example, everything okay. A password, a strong password. Okay, it's a strong password, and again, so that I didn't spell differently. Okay, and the location where the server will be created. Okay, this is very important. Servers and Azure SQL databases should be closer to the applications that will be using them, so that the latency, the network latency, doesn't affect the performance. And if you create on the same region as your application, you'll have a better experience. But sometimes we have to have, for example, a database replication, and we need to do a failover, and the database can be on a different region than the application, and there will be some delay regarding networking, because there will be hundreds of miles away from each other. It's not that bad, but it will notice some delay. So here I want to create on France. I'm creating on France because it's closer to what I want.
I have a question for you, Vitor. So that means that when you create a server, you don't specify the number of the CPU that you are going to use for this server, right?
Right. The server is just a logic way to aggregate several databases. When you create a server, you will only create the master database, but the master databases, we don't bill for it. Okay, you don't pay anything for the master database. So you just use the server as a logic container for our databases, and also to configure some security features, for example, firewall rules. Other features also is automatic tuning, that we can apply automatic tuning to all the databases inside this specific server. There are a lot of features that are associated with the server that can be applied to all the databases on that server. But there are also some of those features that can be then fine-tuned on specific databases on that server, so that you have a database with a different feature option than the server. Okay, so I've said here that this is a new server on France Central. If I want to use Elastic Pool for this database, okay, I don't want to. I want to be a single database. If I want to create, it will show here all the Elastic pools available on this server, but because this is a new server, I will have to create a new Elastic pool. Okay, but time is on of the essence here. And here I will select the SLO for the database. I can select a general purpose, hyperscale, or business critical. On general purpose, I can select, for example, if I want a provision or a serverless. A serverless as a feature that can be paused if the database is not being used for a specific amount of time. And when the database is paused, the compute part is not charged for the customers, only the storage that is being used. Here I can specify the hardware version, Gen 5, SFV2 series and M series. These two are in preview. If you want to select M series, you have to request from the support. Even I don't have access to create. I need to whitelist my subscription to do it. But on FSV2, I can provision, and it will provision 72 vCores with 136 gigabytes of memory. Okay, but I want a generation 5. Here I can save some money saying that I have already a SQL Server license. I can say yes, for example, and I will have to agree that I have the license and I want to apply the Azure hybrid benefit. Okay. Here I will select the number of.
This is very important about the hybrid benefit. So that means that you are going to have a discount, right? If you have this software assurance.
Yes. So you can see here estimated cost 369 euros per month. If I select yes, it will drop to 243. But you need to have a software insurance and you need to have a SQL Server license. Okay. Here we can specify the number of vCores you want for this database, from 2 to 80 vCores, and the max database size. Okay, here 1 terabyte for just 2 cores, but if I scale up, I can go to 4 terabytes. If I want even more, I can go, for example, to an hyperscale where you can go up to 100 terabytes of storage. Okay, and let's say apply. Okay, it will give me here a resume. It will be a general purpose, Gen 5 with 2 vCores, 32 gigabytes of storage. Then I go to the networking. On networking, I can say that what type of connectivity. I can say that I want a public endpoint, a private endpoint. On the public endpoint, I can say that, okay, I want to allow or not Azure services and resources to access this database. This you should be very careful because there are some services that require this feature to be enabled. Okay. If it is disabled, those features that uses external services regarding Azure SQL database will not be able to connect to your database to execute what they want to. Okay. Here you can create add a current IP address from the machine that you are creating the database, and you can also create a private endpoint that only the some resources from the subnet will be able to connect to this Azure SQL database. Okay. Okay, so I want a public. I want Azure services to be able to connect. Also, something regarding this feature, this is for any Azure service and resource can at least reach your database. It doesn't mean that they will be able to connect. To be able to connect, they will need to have valid credentials, a username and a password to be able to connect. But specifying here, yes, any Azure services, even from other customers, will be able to reach this database. For that, they will need to know that this database exists. They will have to know the database name, and they will need to know the user and password to be able to connect. Like José said early, we have several security features that we'll be monitoring to prevent, for example, brute force attacks. So I go here to the additional settings. To create a database, I can say that is a blank database by specifying here none. I can say it's a backup, and then it will show me here all the backups that I have available from my other databases that I want to use to create this database. Or if it's just for testing, for example, I can specify here to use a database sample. Here you'll see my databases and the backups that are available for me to use from this server. Okay, it doesn't mean the backups are not mean only restricted to the server that where we are creating the database. In this case, it's a new server, and this is from an existing server that I have. And also it will show me here backups from servers on other regions that where the backups were geo-replicated, so that if there is a catastrophic event on one region, you can restore your database on a different region because you have geo-replicated backups. Okay, so I want to just a sample here. No, I want to new because I want to specify a collection. I can specify here a collection. And also, if I want to enable advanced data security, okay, I will not talk much about this because this will be a long conversation. Okay. Next, you can specify some tags associated with this database and review and click create, and it will create the database. And after a few minutes, I will have a database available. But I want to show you here another database that is already provisioned. This database, it will show me here the resources that are being used. I can show for the last hour, 24 hours, 7 hours, aggregated type, max, minimum, average. If I click on it, I can go here and see in more detail. I can add more metrics that I want to see. Now it's not showing because these databases are only used to do some troubleshooting regarding customer issues and to replicate customer situations. I have here the query editor that I can use to connect to the database and execute some queries. I don't have to have a management studio, data studio to connect. For example, if I'm using a tablet, for example, I can connect in Query Editor and execute some queries without having Management Studio on an Android tablet, for example. Here, more Power Platforms that are in preview now. If I want to change the database, I can go here to configure and move the database to an hyperscale, to a business critical, increase the number of vCores, change to a serverless database, increase the storage. One regard is that if you switch to hyperscale, you cannot go back, okay? When you scale to a hyperscale database, you cannot go back to a general purpose or business critical. You will need to export the database to a backpack file and then create a new database in general purpose or business critical, and then import the backpack. I can go here and geo-replication and say that I want to geo-replicate my database. This is on France right now, and I can go to West US, for example. Oops. Okay, let's go back. One more. West Europe. Okay, I can specify here the server. As I have 3 servers on West Europe already, I can select one of them or create a new one. Okay, and it's just that, and West Europe. I can specify an elastic pool if I want the general application to be the secondary to be on elastic pool, and change the pricing tier of the secondary. Be advised that the secondaries should be advised secondaries to be at least with the same SLO as the primary, so that there is no issues on the secondaries having to handle the workload from the primary that has more resources. Okay, and you just click here OK, and it will configure everything for you. So you have here geo-replication in an easy way. It's not nothing compared with the SQL Server on core, where you have to do a lot more to have a geo-replication. But you can define things in more detail. Here you have just the main options. Okay.
Just only mention that we have just only 3 minutes more. I don't know if we have any question.
I have only one question. If it's, say, for example, if it's in general pool, right, and in general tier, and tomorrow we decided, hey, we don't want in general tier, we want in the higher tier. How long it takes to move from general tier to the higher tier? From general purpose to business critical, for example.
Okay, these scaling operations, they are fast. The thing that can cause a little more delay is when we change from the storage type. Okay, if we are in a storage type and we scale to a different storage type, what happens is that the data from the database will have to be copied to the new storage type. Okay, but that copy operation will not make your database unavailable. It will be done on the background, and there will be then a moment where the connections will be stopped from the original database that was in general purpose, and then will be reconnected to the business critical. And only on that moment you'll have an availability to the database. Okay, for example, if you have a database with 500 gigabytes, those 500 gigabytes can be copied to a different storage type, but during that copy, you'll still be able to connect and work with the general purpose database. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So one more question on this one, right? Say have an application ABC, right? Like on premises, we use the DNS name to connect the SQL, DNS name or alias name to connect the application to the SQL, right? Can we do the similar thing in Azure too, like using the DNS name or alias name there? Say, for example, yeah, the reason why I'm asking for example, in general purpose, my server, my IP address is 19.2.0.1, for example, right? Whereas in the business critical, it becomes from 01 to 02, right? That means I am changing the configuration within the application to, instead of connecting to server general purpose, connect to the business critical. Is there any way where we can assign the DNS name so we can switch switch the IP address from connecting to the general tier to the higher tier, right?
Yes, we advise to use the server name. Okay, here the full qualified domain name instead of the IP, because the IPs can change. Okay, for example, if there is a deployment on our infrastructure, the IP of the database can change. Because the IP that you see is the IP from the gateway, and we have on different regions we have more than one IP, and you never know what IP, what gateway will handle your connection. So what we advise is to use the full qualified domain name for the server.
So is this fully qualified name, right? It looks like a DNS name to me, right? That, like what is it called? TCP Azure Support Academy, right? .database .windows.net, right? Now, if we switch to the higher tier, can this be connected to the higher tier? It's the same name.
Yes, it will always use the same name. Okay. If you can scale up, scale down, and the name will be always this.
Oh, great. That was my question. Okay.
Okay, it will not change. Okay, so a lot of the features that are here, Jose already talked on MySQL. They are shared among these platforms. What I wanted to show you before closing up, I will not be able to talk about managed instance, but if you have any questions, you can contact me or Jose and we will explain anything. Is failover groups. Okay, with failover groups, you can specify a failover group, and the failover group will have two endpoints where you can use to connect to the database. You put here failover datafest, okay, and this will be the write and read endpoint where you should use on your connection string failover datafest.database.windows.net. There will be a second endpoint for read only that you can use for applications that just want to read information. And these endpoints will not change even if you execute failover between regions, okay? Because these endpoints will always connect to the right primary or the right secondary. If you, with the ActiveJar application, if you execute a failover and you want to connect to the new primary, you'll have to go to the connection string and change the name of the server so that it can point to the new primary server, okay? But in this case, the failover will provide you endpoints that will connect you to the correct primary and the correct secondary. You don't have to do any change. Okay, we don't have much time, and there's a lot of information.
Yes, we know that we have many information. The most important thing for us is try to explain or try to show you the different options that you have in this HANA Labs, because this HANA Labs took 5-6 hours. Okay, we tried to condense all the information in 15 minutes. The most important thing for us is let's say that it looks like in the portal with for MySQL, MariaDB, Postgres, and data warehouses, more or less is the same. Okay, you don't need to change your applications. Okay, you have a lot of things in order to monitor, to encrypt the data, to run the high-availability, the backups, etc. This was our main goal in this session. And again, thank you so much for your time. I know that it's today. It's right now. It's the last session, and you are tired. But again, thank you so much. I don't know if you have any final question before drop the call. Dropping the call. Sorry.
Just wanted to share here a serverless database that is in POS right now. So this database is not being charged for the compute, it's just being charged for the storage that is being used.
Okay, Satip, just only I would like to say something more about the alias and different FQDN.
Yep.
It's possible. Okay, it's not the IP. I mean about the name. Okay, so we have an article in our blog that we explain how to use a different, let's say, name. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a I don't right now. I'm not able to find the article, but we have in this blog that we have that for support side. Let me type in the chat window. Yeah, this is we have articles. I think that we have one article about it. Okay, article about it. So, but yes, it's possible to use a different CNAME. Okay, but using a tricky way, let's say. Okay, you need to specify in the server name. You need in the username. You need to specify the server name. Okay, the username at the server name. Doing this, you are able to use another different name in SQL database.
I'm sorry.
No problem. No problem. We have kids, so I know what is the situation.
This is
Okay.
different times.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, again, thank you so much. We are going to drop the call here, and again, thank you so much for your time.
And if
Thank
you have
you.
any questions,
Yeah.
you can reach us.
Sure.
The recording and the slide decks will be available on the links we share on the beginning of the sessions.
Oh, so which link? Sorry, where's that link? I missed that. Maybe I missed it. Where's all the recordings and sessions will be available?
Yes, will be available. Yes, sure. 1 second. What's this? Let me know when you're able to see my screen, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. 1 second. It's let me. 1 second. It's here. 1 second. It's at the beginning of the session. Yeah, this one. Is this one?
We are not seeing it.
Are you able to see my
Yes.
screen? Okay.
Yes.
In this URL, you are going to have all the slides. Okay. And you are going to have.
If you don't mind, can you copy and put in the chat window?
Yes.
Yes, for sure. So, this session, you mean, right?
Yeah, speaker slides and session. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. 1 second. Let me first to close here.
I'm putting Jose.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, because I'm closing in order to have the last modifications.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, this is what I need.
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you so much for your time, and see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.